Hey guys, recently here on the channel, you saw us process 45,000 223 cases in partnership with Mark 7 Reloading and with Mojo Precision Brass. This time, we're taking it to the next level. We're gonna double down and process 90,000 9mm cases. Buckle up. Hey guys, Gavin here from UltimateReloader.com. I'm back with John Vlieger. Thank you so much for coming out, John.
I'm having a great time, Gavin.
Let me set the lay of the land. Okay, so brief recap of our last project. Mojo Precision sent us a 55-gallon drum of 223 cases. We got APEX10 set up. We ran all 45,000 cases, learned a lot about optimizing for case processing bottlenecked rifle cartridges. 9mm, I'm excited about this because they're not as tall, they're not gonna wobble around as much. We still have the crimp to worry about, but we got onboard swaging on Revolution and on APEX10, so it shouldn't be a problem. Why don't we focus on Revolution first? We're set up to load 9mm. We got a separate video on that. Why don't we kind of tear that apart, get a different tool head with just the processing stuff on it. We'll see if, you know, how high we can push the speed on it and whatnot. And then I'm thinking, let's do some tandem processing. We'll get the APEX10 running kind of more or less in the same configuration. We've got to make sure we have all the parts and stuff, but it'd be great to get both going, and we'll see how long it's going to take us to run all this. Now, we're going to finish it after you leave because you've only been with us here for a couple of days, but appreciate the help getting things kicked off.
It's what I'm here for. Getting machines tuned so they're pumping out brass or ammunition dependent is what we're here to do. I love watching these machines work.
All right, so time for some teardown?
Let's go.
All right.
We took a full loading configuration and we are minimizing what we're doing. And now we are just doing 3 operations. Decapping, swaging, and sizing to get prep brass for loading for later. And I want to give a quick tip for anybody with a progressive press. This applies more than just to Mark 7 products. But when we have a load on the tool head, when we are applying force, we're swaging and we are sizing. Both of those are forceful applications. If you have them right next to each other, you can end up with distension of the tool head, no matter what machine you have. So if we offset, directly offset from one side of the tool head to the other, we have both those forceful operations. We are now equalizing the pressure, and we're going to get more consistent results.
So here's what I'm thinking. Let's get this guy going, and then I think I'll have Kyle work with you on getting APEX10 going as well.
Yeah, run them in tandem.
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay.
Nice. Okay, so now we got not one Mark 7 machine running cases, we got 2. Love it.
2. All I did was slap a new tool head on here, and it was empty, but we're mimicking what we're doing with Revolution. Again, the family cross-pollinates with caliber-specific items.
Should we get these guys fired up?
Yeah.
All right.
Ready, set, go.
That is cool. Nice job on the setup.
Thank you, Gavin. Much appreciated. Seeing both of them run at the same time is a little daunting, but it's well worth it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to get Kyle to help out with this. He's done a lot of this stuff for us, including most of the last run. So.
Yep, it was a great video. Thank you for doing that.
Awesome. Well, it's good to see him running.
All right, so I've been tasked with getting the machines running for today and monitoring them. I'll update you if anything changes. I'm just going to truck away at all this brass. There's a lot to do, so let's just get to it here. All right. First update of maybe many. I noticed the APEX10 is flinging brass past the chute here. What I decided to do was put a little bit of index speed slowdown on this a touch, just 1 notch on each machine. And I've also decided, at least with the APEX10, to go 3,000 rounds per hour. I believe I'm on the same here with the, no, I'm still at 3,500 with the Revolution. Revolution seems a little bit more reliable at the higher speeds versus the APEX, but my philosophy is I'd rather go a touch slower and much more reliable than faster and have to stop and fix things a lot more frequently. It also might keep the wear down just a smidge more. I'm going to spin them up yet again and see how it goes. You're typically going to have a lot of things to iron out at first. And then after that, it's usually smooth sailing. That's exactly what we saw last time with the 223 case processing. So let's see what happens. So I think we might have our first decap pin bend on the decapper. Right here, you'll see a, looks like a 9mm case with a bullet upside down in it. I'll probably have to end up replacing the decap pin on this die, so that's a first. Meanwhile, the Revolution's still cranking away at all the processing. All right, removing the FW die. Definitely a bent pin there. Pretty gnarly. I think we have some spares. Just a few. So we finally reached the point where we got through all the pre-cleaned brass by Mojo Precision for us, which means underneath here, we will see a bunch of dirty brass. Now, that means I gotta clean it, but I have something up my sleeve for that. Come on. Did someone order a cement mixer? I did. Let's get about a bucket full of brass in here and start tumbling. I've also got some paint thinner and brass polish. Lead dust is bad. I'm just gonna eyeball it. So we are about 13,000 rounds in through the Revolution here, or basically a 5-gallon bucket full of 9mm brass. We're about halfway filled on the APEX10 over here. I think it's time to get this poured into a 55-gallon drum. Here we go.
So Kyle, you've been doing some damage over here to our barrel full of 9mm.
I have, yeah. We've done a pretty good amount of progress so far. So yeah, about 20,000 through the rev, and hardly any issues. Had just a couple of stoppages with the case feed, but nothing too major. The Apex has been, you know, each new cartridge or caliber changeover or something new, you kind of got to rework out the kinks. We're probably more like 6,000, so we're almost a bucket full.
Oh, nice.
This will be our second 5-gallon bucket full through the rev. So the rev, it sounds great, still sounds great. I've done a little bit of an index, you know, tuning on it.
Okay.
That's it.
Yep. Good work.
Thank you.
Keep on rolling is what I'd say.
Will do.
Sounds good.
So we're about 25,000 rounds through the rev and 6 or 7 or so through the Apex. What I noticed is, especially the rev, it's getting pretty dirty. So what I'm gonna do is clean it up, get it re-greased and everything with some Lucas oil, red and tacky type grease. Do the same for the Apex while I'm at it. Take care of your machines as needed. We're at 39,000 on the Revolution, and it's near the end of my day, and we have another 5-gallon bucket full here that I need to dump. Why am I on the floor kneeled next to some processed brass? All right, so we're about 47,000 rounds into case processing with the rev. So what's happening is I think the indexing is a little bit rough, a little jittery, and it's just tossing them onto the floor randomly. I tried adjusting the chute, and that didn't do it at all, actually. So it's probably about due time to, at very least, just put some more red and tacky underneath the shell plate, and that should smoothen things up. I'm just going to tear this thing down and do a quick maintenance pass cleanup. Now, both machines are finally clean. Much needed for sure. Quick tip, if you own one of these, it's recommended that you lube the ram and these like guide rods once a day. And then about what I just did here with all the maintenance pass and cleaning and everything, you want to do that about every 10,000 rounds. So that includes applying red and tacky to the linkages and some moly coat in certain other areas, and on your shell plate area as well. It's all in the manual if you want to check that out. All right, cool. We're almost 48,000 rounds in. I'm just going to run the press, see if you can notice something, with the exception of that no cases are being processed, of course. And that probably gives you a clue that something's up, right? So it's not indexing. So unfortunately, I believe the indexing return extension spring has broken. All right, a couple days later, got some replacement springs. That was pretty fast. All right, well, we have success. I've removed the top plate, and as I suspected, right on the other side of decap sense is a post where the other side of that index spring goes. So now that I can finally see things, let's get this spring replaced, shall we? All right, so I got the machine all back together. I did have to adjust the indexing position after I got everything working. It was under indexing a little bit, which is easy enough to fix. You just use that helicoil screw adjustment, which is what you typically do every 5,000 or 10,000 rounds or so once it starts over or under indexing. But yeah, just to show you guys, I got it running full speed here at 3,500 rounds per hour, and everything seems to be working perfectly now, which is awesome. So the last thing I'm gonna do is put some oil on the ram and the guide rods and then continue on. All right, this is it for the Apex. All right, Apex is done. Now let the rev complete it. Yeah, Apex is done. Last bit, finally. Here we go. Case feed's indeed empty. That's it. We're done. Well, that was quite a lot of effort. It's quiet in here now. Yeah. I'm not used to it.
Well, it's done.
It's done.
Literally the biggest process in terms of quantity that we've done with reloading here at Ultimate Reloader by a factor of 2.
2.
Yeah, just shy of 95,000.
Yeah.
Total cases run through the presses. That's quite a bit of throughput. So why don't we walk through the major milestones here?
Yeah, so one thing that the previous work that we did with the 223 helped set this up, like the familiarity with both presses, and they're very similar. So if you work on the Apex, working on the Rev was nearly identical, which was surprising. The other thing is, Mark 7 Tech, John Vlieger, in this case, helped us set up both presses. So I kind of got to stand back, do the filming, and he got everything dialed in for us, and we were ready to go right then and there. And the Rev performed well right from the start. Like, it was just going. So, yeah, after about 10K, the pre-cleaned C3PO, as Mojo calls it, brass, ran out, and it was time for me to tumble. Due to audience suggestion from last time, and I've heard this a while back, like, use a concrete mixer to help speed up the process. You could put about a 5-gallon bucket full of 9mm brass in one go.
5 gallons at a time, imagine that.
Which is probably about 10,000 cases, give or take, maybe 10 to 12. That's a lot.
And what media are you using for this?
I just used a walnut.
Oh, yeah.
So we had some walnut that I found on the shelf, and just...
It's hard to beat.
Yeah. It's
for speed and convenience,
easy, yeah. I didn't measure. I was not scientific at all. It's like, that looks about right. I think I put like paint thinner in there to like help kind of keep the dust down. And I just put a bunch of like polish in there. And then I did it maybe one other time in between somewhere, dumped more polish and stuff in there, but I used the same media and it was fine. So I was just going for get the grime and the dirt and all the stuff from the range pickup out of there. And that worked well. If you're going to get into bulk processing, find a way to streamline your tumbling and sifting. My idea, after I thought about it for a second, is like you'd probably have a giant mesh built with 2x4s or some sort of frame, and you could shake it with like some sort of motor or some sort of like repurposed motor from something. Versus what I was doing is I had like a storage bin, a Contico type bin, and I was putting our sifter on top of that and pouring it in because I didn't have a table to elevate it.
Right.
Kind of janky. It worked, but it's what we had. So yeah, around 13,000 rounds. Did the first 5-gallon bucket that we have here. Did a pour from all our processed brass, I believe from the Rev. The Rev finished first quite quickly, actually. And then around 20,000 rounds, you came in, we did a check-in.
So at the 20K mark, you're really hitting your stride with both machines.
Right.
Right. And through the troubleshooting process with John Vlieger, some adjustments to the APEX10, slowing it down slightly because of some of the case feed issues.
Right.
And then continuing to chug along. There were some anomalies, we'll say, which we'll save for the next discussion. But how was that sort of remainder of the process, the last, I guess, 3/4 of the processing?
Mostly uneventful outside of the hiccups we had, but it's kind of just, you're in the groove. You know,
Yep.
if anything, what I dreaded the most was just tumbling more brass. Honestly, I'm like,
Nice.
oh no, my bucket's empty. Here we
Yep.
go again. So everything else was just running along. But again, it wasn't without its challenges, which we can get into right now. So,
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk challenges.
Yeah. So my first update with the APEX10, right after John Vliegard left, is us having some case feed issues and some brass was spilling onto the floor. But what it came down to is just slowing the index speed, the dwell, a little bit.
Gotcha.
And then just slowing down the machine overall.
Yeah.
Because what I found was a happy medium with it. It didn't like to run as fast as the Rev could run. Rev was running 3,500 rounds per hour. Case feed was keeping up just fine. This one, the limitation is definitely the case feed. So I was keeping it around 2,500 rounds per hour.
And there were some trade-offs there with the speed of the disc and potential jams at the funnel at the top and that kind of thing. So hypothetically, it can go faster, and it's all a matter of these different settings, the speed, the gate opening at the top, and then of course with the auto drive, it's really nice that you have the ability to fine tune the different parameters.
That's right.
The different dwells, the overall speed. Of course, it's got the digital clutch, you know, and torque sense going at all times as well.
That's right. So you're confident, like, it's not going to blow up, you know, but and destroy itself, but it will just stop, which means, you know, you don't want your machines to stop, obviously.
And you start conservatively with the digital clutch and all that, right? And then you ratchet it up and then find where the threshold is, because you do want it to stop with a little extra resistance, but you don't want it to stop when things are running normally, right?
You don't want to crank it to max, turn torque sense off, and let it go. And the Rev, we're pretty much cranking full max 3,500.
Nice.
Like, I think it might have a little bit index dwell on it, but not much. So another interesting one, we had a first decap pin breakage with a 9mm case stuck upside down with a bullet inside of it. So basically, a bullet was upside down in an empty 9mm case.
Interesting.
And
who knows how that happened, right?
I don't know. And I believe that was on the Apex, and it came down, it stopped the machine, you know, of course, I noticed it wasn't working. I'm like, huh, what's going on here? Well, that was the first time we broke a decap pin.
And in the last processing story, the 223, we had zero.
Zero.
Which is ridiculous. The FW gear obviously is up to the task.
Yeah.
And once you get the settings on the machine, you know, figured out, it's awesome. And of course, the name of the game is uptime, right? You want to keep the machines running. You want to keep that brass processing, because that's how you're going to ultimately get paid. So all of these tips and tricks, you know, you're kind of taking a baptism by fire here, because we're doing projects that are sort of infrequent first time. But if you're running an operation, you know, the nice thing about Mark 7 is that you have someone to talk to, and their techs are really good, you know, like John helping to figure all this stuff out.
A couple times I had questions, I'll just shoot them an email, and they'll get back to me pretty much right away. So it was pretty awesome. And with the pin breakage, how many do you guys, we'll get to it later, but how many do you think we broke? And just hang on.
Yep.
So
okay,
we'll answer that in a little bit.
Yep.
So yeah, then after that, oddly enough, around there, we had a 22 LR case and a 9mm case and a rock inside of that 9mm case. So somehow a 22 LR case was lodged vertically against a rock in a 9mm, and also jammed, and I think might have broken another decap pin. Very interesting one. So that one kind of baffled me. It was kind of funny, actually. Then around 25,000 rounds, it was due time for a cleaning and maintenance pass. I will note that it's recommended that you clean every 10,000 rounds or so and do a maintenance pass, and that's all in the manuals you'll find that Mark 7 has for each machine. And again, the fact that they're both very similar, you basically do the same things, slightly different. But around 40,000 or 39,000 rounds, I had a 22 LR case. They're coming back. 22 LR is just haunting us for some reason. It was stuck sideways in the case chute here. It was just sideways. And I thought it was just a standard blockage. I'm like, oh, well, case feed's acting up again, just unjam it. And I'm like, wait a sec, it's not feeding through at all. So I pulled it apart. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. It's kind of a fun part of the day, of what kind of failures you're going to get, because you never know what to expect. At 46,000 rounds, and this is where the little bit of the dip, the low part of the story, if you will, for the Rev, it was tossing cases onto the floor, and I'm like, okay, it's time for another maintenance pass, because I hadn't maintained it again since that 25,000 rounds. I noticed it was a little sticky. It was kind of just the indexing was like jolty. And so if you have that, obviously you should be maintaining every 10,000 rounds anyways, but if you haven't, like in my case, I wanted to push the machine a little bit, not gonna lie. I thought, all right, let's see if maintenance solves it. Sure enough, it did. You know, re-grease everything, clean everything. It was running happy again. And then the lowest part, 47,000 rounds, the index return spring broke on the Revolution. I noticed that. I noticed the machine was just going up and down. I stepped away for a second. I'm like, huh, that's strange. I'm like, oh, maybe the indexing needs like reconfigured, like realigned. There's a helicoil screw in there. It's really easy to do to make the indexing align again. Nope. I'm like, oh, that's odd. It's moving freely. So I messaged the guys, Mark 7, you know, they get back with me real quick. And I sent them some images and things like that. Like, I think it's a spring. So I saw a little piece at the bottom there. And they're like, yep, sure enough, that's a spring. But within a couple of days, we had parts. We were ready to go. And that's where I was like, at that point, I had to actually take apart the top plate on the Rev and everything else. And I'm like, how's this going to be compared to the Apex? And that's where it was confirmed. For sure, it's basically identical.
Interesting.
You know, so it's a great way to get familiar with the machines. You know, if you do this kind of work, you have to be kind of mechanically apt and comfortable. Like, this isn't for someone who's...
For sure.
Yeah, this isn't for someone who wants to press a button. It does everything for you, walk away. You need to be comfortable with maintaining your machines, taking things apart, you know, reaching out to support. They're there for you when you need it, but you still need to be comfortable to actually work on your machine and understand it. Because that's also not only the part of the process, but it's part of being safe with your machines too. And
absolutely.
Not going too far.
So was that a failure that they had experienced before? Was this something that was...
That's something I'll get back to you with.
Okay.
So we'll pop up something if we need to. I'm not sure. I'm really curious. I just didn't get the chance to ask them, is that common?
The reason I ask is that, you know, when you get into a commercial brass processing or commercial loading situation, you want to have some spares on the shelf.
Absolutely.
Because that 2 days, you know, that's potentially 2 days of downtime. But if you stock the right spares, you know what to anticipate, then you can fix it on the fly. And that's also where you want to have redundant machines as well.
Yeah.
And some can be down for maintenance or backup machines.
Absolutely have spares on hand because you never know what can happen. Anything. So you don't want to have your whole day come to a halt for a spring or a screw. It's just not worth it. So if you have to buy them, do it. It's totally worth it. But always have spares on hand at very least because you just never know. Another very common spring to replace is around the shell plate there.
Oh, yeah.
So those just get
Case
crushed.
retention spring.
Exactly, yeah. Those tend to get crushed. Things tend to mess up here and there. You know, if you have a jam, brass will get crushed between the shell plate and the spring. And it's just common. I think that's why they made it a spring, so it can give instead of break.
And there's clamps on both ends. It's really easy to just whip a new one on
Yep,
there.
they come in like little circles. The whole spring comes in a circle. You just snip it and cut it to length and reinstall it.
Nice.
5-minute job, so not bad at all. Another interesting thing I ran into was decap sense was blocking up often, and really just the priming ejection was blocking up often. So I decided to replace it with the basic adapter that we had from a while back. And it turns out, it seems like primers were still blocking even with this basic adapter, but if you walk away for a bit, you'll notice like all the primers will fill to the top, and you don't want to get it to a point where it can't go further because it blocks the machine. That happened a couple times with me for sure. You know, part of that is not paying attention to the machine, you know, if you walk away, but that's when things tend to happen, is when you walk away, I've noticed. Like anytime you turn your back, it's like the machine's like, I'm going to mess up on you now. So I tried that. You know, there's a lot of primers going through here. These tubes get pretty dirty. Maybe cleaning them would help. I'm not sure. So, but another initial, way early on, come to think of it with priming, the tubes were a little bit long where John Bleeger had left them like a little bit curled, and I noticed the primers would tend to gather at the bottom real quickly.
That makes total sense.
So I just made them more, like tensioned them a little bit better, and snipped them about a foot or so early on. But yeah, that would happen here and there. So just make sure you're watching, you know, it's kind of like a visual check. Like, are cases feeding? Do I need more cases put in the case feed bowl? And are primers getting ejected and everything? And another tip, speaking of priming, we may have mentioned this early on, is put a bucket full of water so you avoid that lead dust on the floor. So you don't want lead dust all in the air. Contains it. There's a lot of primers in there. It's a lot.
Nice.
So those were the challenges. It sounds like a lot, but again, we're dealing with a lot of processing here. So
nice.
Yeah. Okay, now we can get into our 9mm case processing failures. The most common is crushed cases. There were 69 crushed cases that we had to, and that could just be due to it getting flung out after case feed. But typically what would happen is a die would come down and just crush the case, and you'll see like an outline of a die.
And would
on the
that
case
always
itself.
stop the machine, or?
Usually digital clutch, yeah. It would kick in and go, hey, something's wrong.
Right.
And you would pay attention to it. You go, oh, okay, it's just sideways, and you'd clear the jam and move on. Pretty simple. Sometimes it would just truck along, and sometimes you'd hear like a flinging noise or like some clanking, and it would just end up on the table or on the floor. But most of the time it just stopped the machine, and
Gotcha.
not a big deal.
Yep.
And then the next common failure was dented case or case feed jam. So dented case is something where the case was already dented, so it's not the machine's fault. Could happen in tumbling, especially in a concrete mixer. Could happen if one fell on the floor and I stepped on it, or it could just be part of the bunch of brass you get sent to you as bulk brass. It's not all going to be absolutely perfect and round, and it doesn't take much for this to jam the machine, because these case feeds are pretty tight tolerance, and it has to be. You don't want too much play. So if it's just a little oblong, it's enough to block all the other cases from getting processed. So that was the most common, or just a case feed jam. So usually due to an oblong case, or just maybe it didn't feed right or something like that, and it got caught between the arm and the shell plate.
Right.
And that also is indicative of you need to clean your machine as well. So if you don't have your case feed arm properly lubricated every 10,000 rounds or so, it kind of gets gummed up and junky and with tumbling media and things like that.
Yep.
And that can cause some issues too. After that, at 33 was failures was decap failures. So just means that it was sealed primers again, like we dealt with the 223 processing.
Right.
So some of those wouldn't fully decap, and oddly enough, I guess with 9mm, it would just keep trucking along. I think some of them I just happened to find. Some of them it would stop the machine, like swage sense would pick up and go, hey, there was a ringer, and it would just stop the machine right there, and you go, oh, okay, it's just failure to prime.
Yeah.
As you can tell, not that many, 33 out of a drum full. It's not a lot. At 15, I'll call unique incidents. Don't have it right here. We'll get B-roll. There were some funny ones, like, the bullet upside down in a case, or I found a couple cases with hex cap screws, or hex screws upside down inside the case, and the machine stopped because it went to deprime and torque sense kicked on. So that was interesting. 22 LR cases blocking or feeding or depriming, things like that. Loaded ammo, we had loaded 9mm loaded rounds in our case feed.
Right.
Very interesting one is in the case feed, a loaded 9mm round was upside down in an empty 9mm case, like sandwiched together. And that stopped the machine.
Yeah.
So
you never know.
That one made me laugh. I'm glad nothing bad happened. Obviously the machine stopped, it's fine, but it's just funny. You look at it, you're like, what? You can't make it up. Like, you really can't. So, okay. So now, let's see if you guessed it right. Our other failure, and kind of included this in brass processing failures, even though it's not brass, is our decap pins broken. So last time, like you mentioned, we broke 0. This time, we broke 7.
Yeah.
Which isn't bad.
No, not for 95,000.
No.
Right? I mean,
it's just as simple as taking off the top like that.
Yeah.
And, you can pop out the pin from the bottom there. And, easy enough. You don't need to remove the whole die. And then lastly, springs replaced. Includes the 2 shell plate springs that I had to replace and the 1 indexing spring. But it doesn't include like the case feed springs, things like that. So on the case feed insertion, there's like 2 little springs, like retention springs here.
Yep.
I didn't really include that because
whippers.
Yeah, exactly. Because those would break, and I wasn't really paying attention to when and how many. I had to maybe replace that twice on each machine. So it wasn't much. I kind of didn't include that metric because I didn't know what it was, if that makes sense.
But the point is, have these springs on hand because you don't want to stop production.
Yes, exactly.
Keep a handful of each type.
I had them send me some extra shell plate springs just in case when we needed to get the index spring, things like that. It's like, why not have it on hand? So we have a bag full of them, and again, it's not something you need to replace often, but you will need to replace it.
Yeah.
And you could probably, if you look close up, you'll see each of these springs are slightly damaged, but it wasn't enough to stop the machine, so I just wouldn't replace it. I'm not going to replace it every time. It's just slightly bent or whatever. As long as it still works, it's fine. You don't, each their own. If you want to replace it every time it's damaged, go for it. But as long as it's still working, maybe keep your machine running,
So I took all those, yes. And all the failures divided by approximately 95,000, and that comes out to 0.2%. which is
It's
really low, actually. For
Yes.
anyone that's run even a regular hand-actuated, progressive press, it's a complicated machine. There's a lot of variables with the brass. I think that's one thing that you could probably do is if you had a way to pour out the cases, maybe as they were going into the tumbler, and to do a visual check, you could probably get that number down a bit because you'd find, oh, that's a little bit long, or oh, I have a Russian doll situation.
Yeah,
with,
exactly.
A 380 auto in there. Did you find any 380 auto
That's an
cases?
interesting question. No, I didn't.
Wow.
That is
That's
actually
amazing.
Yeah, I did find like a 17 caliber type. I did find one of those as well in our unique incidents, but that was it. But oddly enough, no, I didn't find any 380.
That's crazy.
Now that you mentioned, I didn't even think of that. That seems like something you would find in there. But no.
So I think it speaks to Mojo, like for the number of cases that we have here, it's pretty impressive that there were only that many anomalies.
Yeah, it's
really
not bad.
in the entire thing.
Really,
yeah.
In the moment, it's always frustrating to deal when a machine is down. But if you look back at it all and you have your breathing room, you're like, yeah, at the end of it, sometimes it's annoying, but really not that bad. We have a small acro bin of I could fit all of the failures in one tiny little acro bin, and when you hold it up next to the 55-gallon drum, you're like, okay. When you see it visually like that, it's not bad at all. So yeah, and 170 total case failures. That's
really good number.
That's nothing. And our final figures for each, and this, again, like last time, is a give and take. So our Revolution processed 61,637. Our Apex processed 33,250.
Yeah.
So double
Yeah.
throughput through the rev.
That's crazy.
Which
and a
makes
lot of
sense.
that was case feed,
Yes.
according to your statements. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, and even visually, like just before I had all these figures, like I could tell the rev was doing about double just by how many times I'd have to empty the 5-gallon bucket through the rev versus the Apex.
Yeah.
So even just visually looking at them, it was clear that this one was cranking out a lot faster. So yeah, total cases processed 94,887.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot of brass.
That's amazing.
I think we might need some more 9mm brass. So
Maybe so. I already stole some of it to load.
That's right.
With one of our powder stories.
Yeah. No, I'm glad it worked well. It
Yep.
seemed to function well
Yeah,
for us.
for sure.
We got plenty to go around.
Cool.
So
Okay, so at the end of all of this, let's say that you were going to process another 55-gallon drum of 9mm. I know you might not feel mentally ready for that yet.
come on.
Yeah, with everything that you learned with the first 55-gallon drum, what would you do, for the next?
Yeah. So first thing would be figure out a better process for tumbling all that brass. Something maybe a little easier.
Did you like the actual concrete mixer?
Yeah.
Is it just basically the sifting?
It's the sifting. So
Okay.
the concrete mixer itself worked great. I'm not the tallest guy, so it's a little short for me, but getting the brass in there. So if you had a better way of like pouring the brass in there, dealing with all the media, and there are ways to deal with the dust. I know a lot of you have tips and tricks for that as well. So keeping the dust down, you just don't want to bring that home or on your clothes or anything, and just mostly sifting all of it. A better way of better setup for sifting brass, because that's what takes a while, is individually pouring all that brass in, sifting it, pouring it in another bucket, that sort of thing. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
that's something I would do differently next time. If I could clone myself, that would also be great. One could sip coffee while the other one works. If I had two machines again, definitely 2 revs or even just 1 rev and focus on that. And then lastly, biggest tip is just, again, spare parts. For that downtime. That way you can immediately get to work and it's not really a big deal. And the more familiar you are with the machine, when something happens, you're going to recognize it right away and go, okay, this is what I need to do. And you just do it, crank it out and move on and get back to production. That will help speed things up a lot, actually.
Yeah. Well, great work on this. I want to thank you for persevering through
Appreciate
a
it.
pretty intense challenge here.
It was fun.
What we'd like to know from you all is, what questions do you have for Kyle and for Mark 7, actually, for that matter, about the project, about bulk case processing? This is a really push it to the max kind of a situation, so it's really interesting to get these insights and to show what's really possible. So meet us down in the comments section, drop a comment, and we'll enjoy a discussion down there. Thanks again, Kyle.
Appreciate it.
Great work.
It was fun.
That concludes this video, and that means it's time to wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're watching Ultimate Reloader on TV and want to take advantage of free resources, exclusives, and hot deals, just hold your camera phone up to the QR code, tap on the link, fill out the information, boom, you're getting Ultimate Reloader emails. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, we're on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, where we've got unrestricted content, and Instagram. Make sure to follow us on all those channels. Ultimate Reloader also has a commercial solutions division serving law enforcement, the military, and the gun industry. We have some unique capabilities, including a comprehensive suite of recoil testing and evaluation capabilities, trigger profiling, and more. Thanks again for watching.